The bank manager didn't touch the bill. He stared at it the way people stare at a body they weren't expecting to see. $10, old, soft at the edges. My father's handwriting pressed into the corner, almost invisible unless you knew how to look. The manager's smile collapsed. "I need a moment," he said. I watched his throat work as he swallowed. I watched his hand shake when he lifted the phone. He didn't look at me again. That was when I understood the will reading had been theater. The room, the lawyer, my brother's laughter, my wife's smirk. I always knew you were a failure. The bill burned between my fingers now, not because it was money, because it was a message. I remembered my father teaching me how to fold cash when I was 8, where to press, where to hide ink. He never wasted words. The manager came back with security, with keys, with eyes that refused to meet mine. "Sir," he said quietly, "how did you come into possession of this?" I thought of my brother's grin. I thought of my wife walking away without looking back. I said nothing, because I already knew. The betrayal hadn't started at the bank. It had started months earlier, quietly. Missed dinners, my wife's phone turning face down, my brother suddenly generous, suddenly present. I told myself it was coincidence. I told myself I was paranoid. That was my role in the family, the reasonable one, the one who didn't accuse. At the will reading, my father's voice echoed from the past through the lawyer's mouth. Millions to my brother. Assets, companies, control. And me? $10. My wife didn't even hide her smile. It was relief, validation, proof that she had bet on the right man. She leaned in close, breath warm, words cold. I always knew. She left before I could respond. My brother didn't follow. He stayed to enjoy it. That was when it clicked. Not emotionally, but mechanically. My father never punished without purpose, and my wife never left without somewhere to land. I remembered seeing her car outside my brother's house late one night. The excuse had been thin. I'd accepted it anyway. Love makes you stupid. Silence makes you observant. I didn't confront anyone. I went home. I sat in the dark. I replayed years like surveillance footage. My father's disappointment hadn't been disappointment. It had been testing. The bill led me to a private vault. Not in my name, in a shell company I'd helped incorporate a decade earlier. I hadn't known why then. Inside, documents, accounts, a trust, and photos. My wife, my brother, hotel lobbies, reflections in mirrors, time-stamped, cataloged. My father had known. The trust was conditional, activated by that bill, accessible only if I presented it in person. Everything else, the will, the laughter, the exit, had been bait. I checked phone records. Dates matched the photos. I checked corporate transfers. My brother had been siphoning money for years, using my wife as leverage, as distraction. I slept well that night, for the first time in months. I invited them both to dinner. Neutral ground, my brother's favorite restaurant. They arrived together, not touching, not hiding. I slid the folder across the table. No speech, no anger, just paper. My wife's face drained first. My brother followed, slower, calculating, then failing. "That's not," he started. I held up the $10 bill. Silence fell hard. "You were right," I said to my wife. "I was a failure." She nodded, tears forming, misunderstanding everything. "I failed to see how small you both were." My brother reached for the folder. I pulled it back. "Father knew," I said, "long before you thought you'd won." That was when my wife broke. The power move wasn't loud. I stood. I left the bill on the table. "The accounts are frozen," I said. "The trust reverted to me the moment you touched his money." My brother's hands shook. My wife couldn't look up. "You'll hear from my lawyers," he said, weak. I smiled, barely. "You already have." I walked out without waiting for the check. Security stopped them before they reached the door. Not dramatic, procedural, cold. I didn't feel victorious. I felt clear. My father hadn't left me money. He'd left me truth. I changed my number. I sold the house. I kept the bill. Sometimes I take it out and run my thumb over the mark he'd made. A reminder. I was never the failure. I was the exit plan.